Ever since the release of the survival logbook, the debate about Michael Afton's identity has been one of the most fiery debates among the FNaF community. Some believe Michael to be the crying child, while most believe him to be the older brother. For this video, I wanted to go over just why him being the older brother is undeniable, as I can lay out all my thoughts on the topic, and I can possibly convert some people, or I can give you evidence to use in debates if you ever unfortunately get caught in the middle of one. I'm going to be doing a streak of 4 differently themed Michael Afton videos, and I think you'll really enjoy all of them. This is part 1 of 4, so I hope you'll enjoy, and let's talk about the definitive conclusion of Michael Afton's identity. The survival logbook is what originally converted people to the idea of the bite victim being Michael, but if you really look at it, it's more of the ultimate opposing evidence to the theory rather than actual definitive evidence to prove it. Throughout the logbook, there is faded text that speaks to the bite victim. At first glance, you assume that the spirit is talking to Michael, and if that was the case, then that would mean Michael is the bite victim. The faded text says, "The party was for you," connecting to the FNaF 4 bite victim's birthday party. The faded text also asks, "Does he still talk to you?" and on the page, we see the Fredbear plush. The faded text is talking to the bite victim, and at first glance, since this is Mike's security logbook, you assume that they're talking to him. However, it's when you look even further at the logbook that you realize that the faded text isn't actually talking to Michael. At the end of each chapter of the book, there's an area where you rate your feelings about the next night. On chapters 4 and 5, however, the options are a little altered, and the altered text actually matches up to what the faded text says. The faded text asks, "What do you see?" on a page with a mirror, and the altered text says, "I can't see." The faded text asks, "Does he still talk to you?" with an image of the Fredbear plush, and the altered text says, "I can hear sounds." The faded text asks, "Do you have dreams?" a reference to the bite victim being tortured by the nightmare animatronics, which is probably part of what sparked his fear for the animatronics, and the bite victim says, "I'm scared," which could correspond. To be fair, that one was more speculative, but what isn't speculative is the fact that the faded text says, "The party was for you," and the altered text says, "It was for me." It doesn't really get more obvious. The altered text is absolutely responding to the faded text. Some people argue that since the altered text is in Michael's rating of tonight's shift, where Michael himself puts in his feelings, it's possible that the faded text is simply giving Michael options for his responses to the questions. They also argue that the faded text spirit uses altered text in the word search and the clues to Cassidy's name. But there's a few problems with this. First of all, each question only has one answer, so it's not like the faded text is asking him to pick. Is he supposed to rate how much he agrees with the statement? Well, if that was the case, why doesn't Michael interact with it? Second of all, if the faded questions were for Michael and the altered text was also made by the faded text, why would "I can't see" even be an option? If he can't see, then he can't read the question, and if he can't read the question, then there will be no answer. Third, the faded text doesn't necessarily have to use altered text. The clues to Cassidy's name don't seem to be canonical clues, as one of them is literally written by Mike. They seem more like meta clues than anything. And regarding the word search, who's to say that the faded text is even talking here? The faded text does ask, "Do you remember your name?" but the name Cassidy is the one found in this book. This means that either Cassidy is the bite victim, in which case Michael is not the bite victim, or both spirits simply asked for each other's names, meaning that the word search could be the second spirit, that of the altered text, asking who the faded text is. TLDR, the bite victim and Cassidy are talking through the logbook separate from Michael, meaning that Michael isn't the bite victim. However, we're not quite done with the logbook yet. Typically, one of the options for the rating on tonight's shift is Existential Dread, which at a certain point is changed to "It was for me," referring to the bite victim's party. Existential Dread, huh? Why does that sound familiar? The Curse of Dreadbear DLC and its main character of Dreadbear were a really interesting addition to the FNaF series, because not only was it an awesome concept, but the DLC seemed to give us an actual decent amount of lore. Probably the most interesting part of Curse of Dreadbear DLC is Dreadbear himself, especially now that we know a lot more about Vanny and that part isn't as interesting anymore. Looking at evidence throughout the DLC, it's heavily implied that Dreadbear is meant to represent the bite victim. The most obvious connection is in the name. Dreadbear. He's a stand-in for Fredbear, the character who killed the bite victim at his birthday party. At that party, the bite victim was feeling an immense amount of dread, and in the logbook, it was for me a line referring to that very same party replaces Existential Dread. Not only that, but Fredbear is heavily associated with the head and the brain, where the bite victim was bitten by Fredbear on his dread-inducing birthday party. The DLC is also associated with 1983, the year the bite victim died. Dreadbear even used to appear as an Easter egg standing over the FNaF 4 house, implying that that house is his, and further connects him to the bite victim. So, why is this relevant? Well, it comes down to something we can find in Curse of Dreadbear, a birthday cake, with 7 candles. With the whole theme being surrounding the bite victim in 1983, it seems most likely that the bite victim is 7 years old in 1983. But even if he wasn't, he seems no older than 10. This makes it problematic that Mike is most likely Fritz Smith, due to the reason for him being fired being the exact same as Mike from the first game, and the fact that the FNaF 3 player, who is Michael, had to be present in FNaF 2 due to what we found depicting the phantoms as hallucinations from one's past, and most of the phantoms are from FNaF 2. The FNaF 4 player, who is also Michael, is also the same protagonist from both FNaF 1 and 2. We already know Michael to be the protagonist of the first game, which is one of the biggest pieces of evidence that Mike is the player of FNaF 4 due to the FNaF 1 phone call, and the mechanics being very similar to the characters from FNaF 1, but in FNaF 4, we have a hallway with 4 doors either side, just like the FNaF 2 restaurant, and Foxy also appears straight ahead of us in the main gameplay, just like he does in FNaF 2. By 1987, the bite victim would be 14 at the oldest, but more likely around 11. And because it's more likely that his age is in fact 7 in 1983, in 1993, the year of FNaF 1, he would be 17. And that means that for him to work at both FNaF 1 and 2, if Mike was the crying child, he wouldn't be old enough to work there. Curse of Dreadbear also further implies that the Midnight Motorist family is in fact the Afton family. The Easter egg with the car and the headlights turning purple used to activate Dreadbear on the hill, which as I mentioned earlier implies that the house on the hill is his. The house for Midnight Motorist is being designed the same way as the FNaF 4 house, which is the same house on the hill in Curse of Dreadbear. And also, why would that house be there in FNaF 4 if it had nothing to do with the protagonist? So Glitchtrap appearing next to it and Dreadbear appearing next to it implies that the house belongs to them. Therefore, Midnight Motorist is about the Aftons. One of the things we can find in Midnight Motorist is a lazy couch potato sitting on the couch watching TV. This person speaks with gray text and wears a gray shirt, just like Foxy Bro in FNaF 4. And they're sitting on the couch watching TV just like we see Mike doing in Sister Location, watching the Immortal and the Restless. Some argue that the Foxy Bro can't be the guy on the couch because he defends the kid who ran away, yet Foxy Bro bullies the bite victim. However, just because he bullies him doesn't mean that he doesn't care about him. Foxy Bro is a dick, yeah, but he's still the bite victim's older brother. It's still his job to watch out for him, so that's what he does. I don't think it's that hard to believe that a bullying big brother still cares about his younger brother, and given the shirt and text colors match, and given the piles of evidence that Midnight Motorist is about the Aftons, I think that it's most likely that this is Foxy Bro. Hell, this minigame might have even been trying to tell us that he does care. Many people recently, especially after MatPat suggested it, have begun to believe that Michael is actually the one who ran away and Mrs. Afton is the one sitting on the couch, but I don't think this is very likely for a few reasons. First of all, the Fredbear plush in the final minigame of FNaF 4 is actually Charlotte, as confirmed in FNaF World, where the Fredbear plush is shown to be the one setting up Happiest Day, while in FNaF 3 it's shown that the puppet is the one to set up Happiest Day, meaning they are one and the same. This means that since Charlotte dies right before Midnight Motorist, the bite victim is alive at that point. But you know who's not alive at that point? Mrs. Afton, who the security breach CDs in the Fazbear Frights epilogue implied divorces William, who manipulates Elizabeth into saying bad things about her mom for William to gain custody. He does so successfully, and Mrs. Afton ends up killing herself. It's implied that this is one of the very first events, so she wouldn't be alive still by the time of FNaF 4, which also explains the mound of dirt in Midnight Motorist, which could be where William buried her. Therefore, it makes much more sense for Michael to be the one on the couch. So the fact that Foxy Bro sits on the couch watching TV, to me seems like a reference to Mike watching the Immortal and the Restless, connecting the two. Some argue that he wouldn't protect the bite victim, or that he just wouldn't talk to William the way that he does, but we don't really know what tone he uses. It could just be a suggestion that Afton doesn't pay attention to, which makes a lot of sense because, well, speaking of the Immortal and the Restless, we should go over that too. The Immortal and the Restless also represents the Aftons, given that Vlad the vampire wears purple and is the aforementioned Immortal, and Afton's goal in the series is to become immortal. Vlad also had a son that he does not want the responsibility of taking care of. He neglects this child, claiming it not to be his, despite it very clearly being his. The kid looks exactly like Vlad. But what's interesting about that is that at the end of Sister Location, the very game with Immortal and the Restless, Michael Afton says that the animatronics thought that Michael was William.
They didn't recognize me at first, but then they thought I was you.
In a meta sense, at one point or another, William and Michael, father and son, have both been purple. Michael turned literally purple and Afton is only metaphorically purple, but it's still clearly meant to show that Afton and Michael look very alike. And that means that the baby in the Immortal and the Restless is meant to represent Michael Afton. The thing is though, there's only one child and no others. Since the kid is just a baby and there's no other kids, it's clear that this is William's firstborn child, which is Foxy Bro. This further connects Foxy Bro to Michael and also shows that Afton and his wife always had a bit of a rocky relationship, but they made it work until probably around the early 80s when they get a divorce and Mrs. Afton kills herself, which likely kickstarts the events of the series. Speaking of Michael and William looking the same, we get another iteration of this in the FNaF 6 poster on Lefty's alleyway screen. There is an image of a ventriloquist holding a dummy that looks exactly like him, also with a clown and a bear wearing a party hat. This poster represents the Afton family. William is the ventriloquist, the puppet master, the one pulling all the strings in the series, and Michael is the dummy as he looks just like the ventriloquist and is led on by William throughout the series, with Michael being led to Sister Location by him and trying to find him thereafter. The clown represents Elizabeth, since Elizabeth possesses the clown animatronic of Circus Baby. So, who is the bear? Well, it's the bite victim. The bear has sharp teeth and claws, just like the nightmare animatronics, which the bite victim is tortured by and then inflicts on Michael. It is also a bear, which is what killed the bite victim at his birthday party, hence the birthday hat on the bear's head. Michael and the bite victim on this Afton family poster are separate, meaning that Michael isn't the bite victim and is the older brother. Some people argue that the artist for this poster confirmed that it has no lore relevance, but this simply is not true. People said this to me for the longest time, and when I finally saw what it was all about, I was greatly humored that people actually thought this. Here's what the artist actually said. The logo, the posters in the alley, and the child drawings were made by me. Don't ask me about hidden meanings on the posters though, they are most likely Easter eggs, they does not contain hidden lore, winky face. The artist literally said they think they're most likely just Easter eggs. Most likely, as in not for sure. And hell, they even put a winky face, implying that they are joking. In reality, the artist had no idea, and even if what they said was definitive, this artist was not Scott, and given that they only said they think they're just Easter eggs, it's clear that Scott told them what to create, and even if the artist believed that there wasn't lore in them, Scott almost definitely would have hidden lore in them. Plus, the artist claims that they're probably just Easter eggs, but Easter eggs in FNaF are literally the #1 source of lore in the series. So if they are Easter eggs, then they probably still have lore. And knowing Scott, yeah, of course they do. Next up, we have Security Breach. In Security Breach's sticky note room, we find a staff bot family. One is missing a head, one is dressed like a magician, one looks like Ballora, one looks like Circus Baby, and one looks like a worker at a pizza place. This represents the Afton family. The Circus Baby one is the clearest, of course being Elizabeth, the Ballora one seems pretty clear to be the Afton mother, the headless one is clearly the bite victim as the head was chopped off, the pizza worker is Michael as he worked at the Freddy's locations, and the magician one is William Afton, being the one to use remnant energy for immortality and thinking of it as a sort of pixie dust. Not only that, but the files of Security Breach actually confirm that the magician and the Ballora looking staff bots are in fact a father and a mother. They actually have a conversation, and here's how it goes. Quote, "I am home. You are home early. I quit my job. What about the children? We have a down payment on a new closet. I do not know what I was thinking. I was compelled to leave my post. This is no longer working. I am leaving. Do not go. May you be happy in the life you have chosen." I'm a very professional voice actor if you guys can't tell. It's clear that this is a family, and with one of the members of the family being Circus Baby, it's abundantly clear that this is the Afton family. Not only that, but it seems to be a birthday setting, given the gift in the middle, and in that gift is a poster of Fredbear's Family Diner. This is the Afton family, and Michael is shown separate from the bite victim. Therefore, he is the older brother. Foxy Bro is really important to the story of FNaF 4, as he is the character who sets all of the events of the game into motion, as well as most of the events of the series as a whole. I'd find it really strange if Foxy Bro, the one to cause many of the events in the whole series, was just a one-off character with no development whatsoever, and it seems like Scott agrees with that. At the end of FNaF 4, right before the Fredbear plushie does that whole speech about "we are still your friends, I will put you back together" and all that jazz, we actually get some lines of dialogue written in gray text. "Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry." The text color and the context make it clear that it's Foxy Bro talking here, and what it implies is that Foxy Bro is important. It seems to indicate that he would try something to redeem himself, like for instance stopping a violent child serial killer. Foxy Bro has to be someone, but the problem is that there's no one else for him to be. Some people say that he could be Phone Guy, but that doesn't work for a couple of reasons. First of all, the Aftons are British and the Phone Guy is not, and second, Phone Guy works for Fazbear Entertainment right from the start. The FNaF 3 phone calls are debated what years they take place, but either way, at the point of the calls, Phone Guy is a trusted enough member of the company to inform employees about something that could literally kill them, so he has to have been working there for at least a year. So if these calls were to be in 1985, then he would have been only 17 at the oldest by the time he started working there if he was Foxy Bro, as he is almost definitely between the ages of 14 and 16. He can't really be any older and he likely isn't any younger, therefore there isn't really anyone else that he could be except for Michael. But the bite victim is the opposite. Besides Mike, there are multiple and better options as to who the bite victim could be, and one of those options is that the bite victim is Golden Freddy. One of the biggest pieces of evidence for this is that in the Happiest Day minigame, the setting is the exact reverse of the bite victim's birthday party from FNaF 4. What's more is that the minigames we use to set up Happiest Day all actually correlate with the things that we see in the FNaF 4 minigames. The pieces of Happiest Day are the bite victim's memories. With all this, it seems most likely that the bite victim is the spirit set free in Happiest Day, which would mean that he is Golden Freddy and therefore not Michael. A lot of the rest of this video is going to be going over Fazbear Frights parallels. Parallels are really questionable sources of evidence, but I think that they can definitely be used as evidence, as long as the idea stemming from the parallels does have evidence in other regards. If something is implied by Fazbear Frights and nothing else, then it's not a very strong theory, but if something has evidence elsewhere and Fazbear Frights furthers it, I think that is safe to use, especially if the parallels are strong. And I think most of the parallels with Michael Afton are strong, and I also think that with the amount of them there are, there's almost no way that Michael is the bite victim. Starting with the first, I think that this one less proves that Michael is the older brother and more so proves that the bite victim is Golden Freddy, which in turn proves the former. So starting off with Fazbear Frights, we have the New Kid. The New Kid is one of the more interesting Fazbear Frights stories because of just how mysterious it is, and it's also one of my favorite Fazbear Frights stories. The main character of Devin is quite a strange kid, and when Kelsey comes to town, it drives him a little crazy because everyone loves Kelsey, but no one likes Devin. Devin gets no attention while Kelsey gets all of the attention. Remember what we talked about earlier, how Michael is ignored by William? The bite victim, on the other hand, is spied on with the Fredbear plush, who William possibly talks through to the bite victim to keep him away from the animatronics. The bite victim is paid more attention to by William than Michael is. Devin actually lures Kelsey to a Freddy's location, and what he does there is almost exactly like what Michael does to the bite victim. At a Freddy's location, Devin tries to prank Kelsey with a Fredbear suit, trying to scare him, but this prank accidentally results in Kelsey's supposed death. I also don't like using the Ultimate Guide as evidence because it does have a lot of errors, but I do think it's probably worth mentioning that in the art for the New Kid in the Ultimate Guide, Kelsey is seen with his head inside Fredbear's mouth. Kelsey is very clearly meant to be connected to the bite victim, but other parts of the story also connect him to Golden Freddy. When Golden Freddy is first found by Kelsey and Devin, Devin tells Kelsey that he actually looks similar to Golden Freddy. It's one of those really odd details that within the story don't actually go anywhere, like the quantum immortality thing in Under Construction. Why would this actually be brought up at all if it didn't mean anything? It seems to be trying to tell us that Devin actually is Golden Freddy. At the end of the story, Golden Freddy actually attacks Devin, trapping him there and not allowing him to leave. He almost definitely dies there, and it wouldn't make sense for anyone to be doing that to him except Kelsey. And right at the end, Kelsey's shown up and about, going to a new school and approaching bullies. Kelsey here is able to speak, which basically confirms that Kelsey is a spirit. And the reason for this is because Afton tells us in the Silver Eyes that when you are spring-locked, your vocal cords are sliced, meaning you can't speak. We see that happen in the New Kid as Kelsey is screeching until he suddenly stops, signifying his vocal cords being cut. So how would he be speaking? To put it simply, he is a spirit. We also know due to the FNaF 1 phone call in the nights and the drawing of Nightmare Fredbear in the survival logbook that Michael Afton is the player of FNaF 4. And in the new kid, we see Devin, after accidentally killing Kelsey, actually having nightmares about it. I think the rest of the stories will probably take less time to talk about. Hopefully, probably not really actually. But next up we have Lonely Freddy. One of the interesting things about FNaF is how some events within the games kind of repeat themselves in new, more unique ways. For example, Vandy becoming the killer in a rabbit costume like Afton was, or Afton burning and coming back a lot, or the body snatching, which we see happen in Sister Location and in FNaF VR. Lonely Freddy actually connects to that as well. The events of Sister Location basically parallel the events of Glitch Trap in that both involve body snatching. Alec in Lonely Freddy is an asshole older brother who loves Foxy, and also dresses up as Foxy, and also rips off a limb of the Foxy plush, just like Foxy Bro. The story counts the days to his younger sibling's birthday, and on the birthday, he basically reinforces his status as an asshole older brother, doing something really bad to his younger sibling, causing him to feel a tremendous amount of guilt. Again, just like Foxy Bro. However, at the end, Alec, the guy who parallels Foxy Bro, gets his body snatched, just like Michael in Sister Location. Next up, we have Blackbird. In Blackbird, we have Noel, who used to be a bully, and we have Sam, who used to be bullied. Noel begins to bully Sam a bit, and because of that, Sam accidentally got hit by a train. Noel, thinking he'd gotten Sam killed, begins having nightmares about the event, being haunted by the Blackbird, the costume that Sam was holding when he got hit by the train, which could be a reference to Fredbear being a part of the FNaF 4 nightmares after the bite victim was bitten by him. Like I've been saying, Michael is the one to have the nightmares. Perhaps even more egregious is Pizza Kit. Peyton isn't a bully, but she doesn't tell anyone when her best friend seemingly dies. As the one still alive, she has nightmares as well, like Michael, but what these nightmares entail is what makes them so interesting. During Peyton's nightmare, she begins to feel something living inside her body, and eventually there is so much pressure that the thing inside her bursts out, popping out her eyes and climbing out of her body from her mouth. This is just like what we see in Sister Location, where Ennard is inside Michael until eventually he literally shoots outside of Michael's mouth, and we also see Mike's eyes disappear. So in Pizza Kit, someone loses someone they really care about, and through their guilt they have nightmares about something going inside their body and then coming out through the mouth. You know, that sounds really weird out of context, but let's just ignore that. Anyway, next up we have The Real Jake, where Jake's uncle is named Mike and his dad is named Evan. Evan ends up dying and Mike is still alive. This seems to imply that Evan represents the bite victim as he dies while Michael and the Foxy Bro both stay alive. Next we have Friendly Face. In Friendly Face, Edward loses his best friend and cat, and the cat was responsible for his death. So Edward goes into a phase of guilt that he wasn't able to save them, and he's haunted by a combination of the two. This connects to Nightmare Fredbear, as Fredbear was responsible for the bite victim's death, and in FNaF 4, it is implied that the bite victim actually is Nightmare Fredbear, as he's kind of the final boss of the main game, and his laugh is just a slowed down clip of a little boy laughing. But another thing, after the death of Jack and Faraday, Edward goes into a really bad phase of guilt and depression, and during that time, he never showers. His mom points out that he hasn't showered for weeks, and most importantly, he stinks. Why is that important? It goes all the way back to FNaFs 1 and 2. Mike Schmidt and Fritz Smith are almost definitely the same person, Michael Afton, and one of the reasons for this is that they are fired for the same reasons, tampering with the animatronics, and most importantly, odor. Next up, we have Find Player 2. In Find Player 2, Amy is responsible for the death of her friend who is immature who has a teddy bear. This connects to the Foxy Bro being responsible for the bite victim's death who has a teddy bear. 10 years after the death of her friend, she returns to the original Freddy's location to investigate, and she also goes after a supposed killer. This lines up with Michael Afton being Mike Schmidt and going to FNaF 1 in 1993, 10 years after the bite victim's death. Next, we have Kids at Play. In Kids at Play, Joel accidentally runs over a child. Believing the kid is dead, he feels immense guilt, and he begins having nightmares until eventually his body is controlled by some entity living inside his body, and he walks down the street unable to control himself before his body stops, and whatever is inside him bursts out. This is also just like Ennard, how he lives inside Michael's body and controls him, making him walk down the street before he stops moving and Ennard bursts out. Just 3 more Phasma Frights stories to go, and next we have Gumdrop Angel. In Gumdrop Angel, Angel is angry that her younger sibling gets all the attention, which I've said applies to Mike and the bite victim, further implying that they're different people. However, Angel actually gets angry at Ophelia, her younger sister, on her birthday, and steals the gumdrop nose, something that was pretty messed up to do. When she eats the gumdrop nose, she freaks out because her skin changes colors and her body collapses in on itself, just like what happens with Mike in Sister Location, where Mike's skin changes colors to purple and falls in on itself. Similarly, next, we have Sea Bonnies. In Sea Bonnies, Mott, an older brother to Rory, flushes Rory's Sea Bonnies down the toilet. Again, a pretty messed up thing to do. He even feels guilty about it afterwards, and he has nightmares about it. One night, he actually accidentally ends up drinking one, and the Sea Bonnies multiply inside his body. They live inside his body, and Mott tries to run to the doctor, but before he can, the Sea Bonnies living inside his body take over and control of his body, and his skin even changes colors to blue. This is just like Mike in Sister Location having entered living in and controlling his body and changing his skin color to purple. A whole lot of Phasma Frights stories connect the Foxy Bro to Mike, especially through the Sister Location experiences. But there is one more story where that happens, and it's one of the most popular, the most popular Phasma Frights story that people associate with Mike being the Foxy Bro. And of course, I'm talking about Step Closer. In Step Closer, Pete bullies his younger brother, scaring him with Foxy just like Foxy Bro. Pete constantly chews gum, which Mike is said to do in the survival logbook, where under habits he'd like to break, he says, chewing gum excessively. On top of that, a certain point in the story, Pete's hand actually turns purple as a result of a finger trap. His hand turns purple just like Mike turns purple in Sister Location. Some people actually argue that Pete is actually representing the bite victim because he is made fun of, like once in the entire story, and is scared of Foxy, but that doesn't really make sense, because that happened once, and he's not really scared of Foxy, but rather the crazy stuff that's actually happening to him. The idea of it being a role reversal doesn't really add up, because the bite victim never scares Foxy Bro using Foxy. However, there is another story where the role reversal thing actually does make sense. Hide and Seek. Hide and Seek is sometimes used as evidence for Mike being the crying child, because Mike is confirmed to be the one having the nightmares with a shadow monster with sharp-ass teeth, and Toby here is a younger brother who goes through those nightmarish experiences with a shadow monster who grows sharp teeth. Toby's brother also bullies him, and Toby works at Freddy's. But the thing about it is that both Toby and his brother Connor have worked at Freddy's and both bully each other, meaning who's who could really go either way. You may be inclined to think that Toby is crying child since he's the younger one, but one of the interesting parts of the story is that Connor and his dad actually have a really good relationship. Connor gets all the attention from their dad, while Toby, while he is cared for, is paid attention to much less than Connor is. This lines up with what we talked about regarding Michael earlier, but also lines up with the Foxy Bro, because like I said before, there's only one kid in the Immortal and the Restless, implying it's the oldest child. And in other stories like Gumdrop Angel, Lonely Freddy, and the New Kid, the older sibling is the one to get the less attention. But the most debated story in Phasma Frights when it comes to Mike Bro and Mike Victim is What We Found. In What We Found, we have Hudson, the protagonist, working at Fazbear's Fright, indicating he's clearly referencing Michael Afton. However, Hudson is often looked down on, bullied, and he cries a lot, which some believe indicates a connection to the bite victim. But the thing is, we don't really know a lot about Michael's personality following the bite of 83. The only thing that we get about his personality is that he's mostly benevolent as he's trying to amend for his mistakes, and we hear him speak in Sister Location, but nothing about his personality is really indicated besides his drive to find William, which he doesn't until FNaF 3. But in What We Found, it seems like this version of quote-unquote Michael is meant to be after the bite of 83 equivalent of this story, and the reason I say this is because Hudson accidentally kills his mom, just like Foxy Bro accidentally killed his brother. So What We Found on Hide and Seek don't necessarily prove Mike Victim exclusively, and they really can go either way, but Mike Victim doesn't seem like the most likely option. Just 2 more things to talk about for this video, and both of them are recent information. First of all, we have the FNaF movie. While the FNaF movie isn't out yet, we've gotten many casting details and information on characters already, and some of this actually gives some insight into Michael Afton's identity. From leaks about the characters, we know that Michael is riddled with guilt over a tragedy in his past. Guilt, huh? Matches pretty well with Foxy Bro, right? Michael is also set to be around early to mid-20s. As I've already talked about, the bite victim is likely about 7 years old in 1983, meaning that in 1993, the likely year of the movie since it'll be following FNaF 1, the bite victim will be 17, not early or mid-20s. And while some may argue that since this is a different universe, maybe the ages are slightly altered, well, no, because recent information about the movie confirms scenes with a birthday party and a crime scene with corresponding film dates. Not only that, but Mike's younger brother is casted. Mike has a younger brother, which is not the case if Mike is the bite victim. And finally, we have the FNaF character encyclopedia. The FNaF character encyclopedia's reliability is currently a hot topic of debate as the book does have quite a few mistakes. However, most of these mistakes are pretty minor and some even have valid explanations. The book doesn't actually get lore wrong except in the case of spoiler territory. I went over all this in a previous video, so if you want more info, go check that out. But I think that the book can be used as supplementary evidence, but probably shouldn't be used as the basis of any theories, like I said before with parallels. But what it does show us is the bite victim in the form of a spirit. Now, I'm no genius, but I don't think it takes one to realize that this is telling us that the bite victim's role in the series is as a spirit, and that means that he is not Michael. But on this page we also get art of the bite victim where we see that he actually has brown eyes, while Michael has blue ones. So, because of all of this, I think it's very clear that Michael Afton is not the bite victim, but rather his older brother. But that's all for this really long video. My throat is really hurting me right now. I probably won't be able to speak for another hour, but I'm going to hop into a VC right now and probably destroy my voice even more. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my upcoming Michael Afton videos and other videos I have planned for the future, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!